Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're digging into something really fundamental, the building blocks of how we talk about our lives day to day. We're doing a deep dive into daily routines, and we're looking specifically at an online English vocabulary lesson, one aimed at the A1 level, that's, elementary.
Right, the very beginning stages of learning.
Exactly. So, our source material is pretty straightforward. It's a list of verb phrases for beginners, but our mission here, it isn't just to, well, read out the list. We want to unpack this vocabulary, see what kind of typical day it actually paints a picture of, and maybe understand why these simple phrases are just so important, almost like, I don't know, linguistic DNA for starting out.
Hmm.
So let's walk through this basic day as the source presents it and pull out the interesting bits for you.
Yeah, and it's fascinating, really, what you can learn by looking at these first steps. This A1 lesson, it focuses really intensely on core verb phrases. It's like a master class in efficiency, giving you just the absolute essentials you need to start describing basic actions.
Yeah.
And these aren't just random words, right? They're the high-frequency verbs, the real backbone for talking about your day.
Okay, so the lesson kind of walks us through a day chronologically. It starts right when the alarm might go off. First, you wake up, that moment your eyes open.
Huh?
Then, the actual physical act, you get up.
Right.
It's a distinction the source makes, which is interesting. It shows that even at the super basic level, language captures,
Yeah,
nuances.
those small differences matter.
Then it moves into, well, personal care and getting fueled up. You brush my teeth.
Standard.
Then, the important one, have breakfast. And this lesson, it actually throws in a little detail here. It mentions the person usually have some coffee and toast for breakfast.
And that small detail, it's quite telling, isn't it? Even in a simple A1 list, it shows routines aren't just actions in sequence. They can include habits, preferences. It sort of subtly teaches that language allows for that personal touch right from the get-go.
Absolutely, good point. So after breakfast, finishing getting ready, you have a shower, and then you get dressed. I mean, think about your own morning right now listening to this. How many of these core verbs describe things you do almost without thinking?
They're pretty universal anchors in the day for many people.
So the lesson then moves from home out into the world. The next step is go to work. And what's interesting here is even at this foundational level, the source brings in variation. It says the person usually goes by bus, but sometimes walk.
Yeah, and if you connect that to the bigger picture of learning a language,
Hmm.
including variations like usually or sometimes early on, that's brilliant. It stops the learner thinking there's only one way or only one word for something. It shows language is flexible, reflecting the choices we make, even in everyday stuff.
Right. It plants that little seed of nuance early. Okay, so you arrive at work. The structured day begins. This lesson says the person will start work at 8 a.m.
Okay.
and the first task, check my emails. Again, super common action.
Very relatable.
It grounds the vocabulary in something many people actually do.
And looking at this list, it makes you think about the cognitive load for a beginner. They've clearly chosen actions that are easy to visualize, universally understood, makes them easier to grasp, to remember. Checking emails is tangible, modern. It fits that perfectly.
Good point. Okay, moving towards the middle of the day, the routine includes have lunch.
Naturally.
And just like the commute, the lesson gives options, sometimes at work or at a nearby place. It does raise a question, though, doesn't it? Why include variations for the commute and lunch, but maybe not brushing teeth? What kind of design choices are being made there? Introducing complexity bit by bit.
That's a really crucial point about designing language learning materials. At A1, you absolutely don't want to overwhelm. So they give you the core action, have lunch, and then maybe the two most likely scenarios. At work, nearby place.
Hmm.
It's just enough detail to be useful, realistic, without asking too much mental effort from the learner. It teaches utility alongside the words.
Exactly, it's practical. And then the workday wraps up. The lesson gives the phrase finish work at 5 p.m.
The end of the structured part.
Yeah, and here's where, for me, it gets really interesting. The evening section seems to break free from that morning and workday structure. After the person go home, the list of possibilities just expands. It really reflects that personal time is often more varied. The source lists things like do homework, go for a run, go to the gym, or go shopping, a whole range.
And that section really demonstrates how even a basic vocabulary set can start describing diverse activities. It moves from those universal needs, eating, hygiene, work towards personal choices, hobbies. For a learner, that's powerful. It shows the language can describe their unique life, not just some generic template.
Definitely. Starts hinting at personal identity. Okay, then the evening meal. The lesson includes cook dinner and then have dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And it adds another one of those personal anchor points here. It states, the person always have dinner with my family.
Yeah, that always detail is quite specific.
It anchors the routine in a habit, maybe a cultural thing, gives the learner a model for describing their own non-negotiables.
It's a perfect example of how basic language isn't just actions, it's also about relationships, habits. Including a phrase like that gives a simple model. The learner can then swap out with my family for alone, with friends, whatever fits, as they learn more words. It just makes the abstract list feel a bit more human.
Yeah, I agree. And finally, the day winds down. The lesson includes watch TV.
Common evening activity.
And then the end of the cycle. You go to bed.
So if you step back and look at this list, maybe 20 key verb phrases in total. It's a complete, simple but complete narrative arc of a day, waking up to sleeping.
Right.
So why is mastering this list so crucial for you, the learner? Because these simple verbs, they aren't just isolated words, they are the absolute bedrock, the linguistic foundation for so much more. Think about it.
Yeah.
You can't talk about getting up early or getting dressed quickly or having a big breakfast without first knowing get up, get dressed, have breakfast.
Yeah.
They're like the Lego bricks you need to build everything else.
And the lesson itself points towards ways to really absorb this, right? It mentions exercises, matching things up,
Practice methods.
using a video for pronunciation, which is so key for these common verbs and flashcards for memorizing. It shows that learning these basics needs active work, not just passive reading.
Absolutely. Reinforcement is key at this stage.
So we've kind of used this A1 vocabulary lesson as a lens, walk through a typical day, highlighting the core actions, but also those small but significant details, the variations that pop up.
Yeah.
Think about that specific phrase the source used. Always have dinner with my family. How does that resonate with your own life? Is there an activity that's an always for you, something that defines part of your day?
It's a good question to ask yourself.
Yeah.
Because this simple list, these 20 or so words, it does more than just describe a day. It really gives you the fundamental tools to start describing your day, your specific life. So what stands out most to you from this basic structure we've talked about? How would you immediately start building on these simple phrases, adding your own actions, your own variations, your own always moments to tell the story of your routine?